Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar hosted by ITHENA for showcasing for you and your customers to manage service in the digital age. This webinar focuses on providing information about a product that enables OEMs to connect and manage their assets when deployed with their customers, and for customers to resolve a lot of issues within their infrastructure and assets that are deployed by the OEMs by use of digital technology. Before we get started, there's a few housekeeping items we wanted to share with you. Number one, this meeting is being recorded. Number two, if you have any specific questions, you'll have an opportunity to ask those questions via chat. And since we're anticipating quite a few folks on the call, we would request that you can post your questions in the chat message and our moderators will receive them and be able to answer them. If we miss specific questions from you, please feel free to send an email at request@ITHENA. We'll be presenting that information slide right after at the end of the webinar. We have on purpose muted all the participants so as to avoid any confusion and the ability for everybody else to have the opportunity to listen to the entire webinar. Should you have any specific questions, again, please raise your hand as well as ask the questions in the chat message and our moderators will help get to it. Thank you and welcome again. My name is Prabodh Chiplunker and I'm based out of Richmond, Virginia. And I wanted to introduce a little bit about ITHENA before we get into the webinar itself. I'm also going to mute my video so as to preserve bandwidth. In case needed, we'll come back on. ITHENA is a global solutions and services company based out of Richmond and about 4 other locations around the globe. We specialize in providing digital solutions across automotive, transportation, mobility, manufacturing, and other subverticals, smart cities and infrastructure as it relates to smart infrastructure or buildings or government-led utilities, as well as several organizations within retail CPG space. The offerings of ITHENA span across multitudes of digital technologies, including some of the prepackaged solutions of which iServ, the second bullet, is what you're going to hear about quite a bit today, which allows the ability for intelligent customer service and support. Our services capability span across core digital areas, including e-commerce and mobility, a lot of modernization of assets like ERPs and legacy applications for our customers, technology innovation for the modern age, including effective, responsive capabilities that customers need in their homegrown applications through full stack digital capabilities. And data analytics that's led with AI, machine learning, and core enterprise business intelligence. We are partnered with some of the best organizations to help provide that new paradigm of data management. With that introduction of ITHENA, I'd like to move directly into some of the challenges that the world has seen, especially as it relates to industrial service. A lot of our customers that are in the space of providing equipment and machinery, or machine builders as they're called, or an OEM, selling infrastructure assets or production management assets to their end customers. The industry suspects that the growth of that market, especially by 2025, will be in the mid $40 billion range. And this is the service portion of that market sale. So it's not just the cost of the equipment, but the addressable market size as it comes to servicing those equipments. Whether you look at customers' growth from a digital perspective, or you look at the various consolidations that are in the market, there's several challenges that face customers as they look to have better uptime, provide or receive better service. And the similar challenges from an OEM standpoint persist a lot of times. So let us highlight some of those and see if they resonate with what you're going through in your environment. Certainly, there's strategies that may not always fit for managing the equipment and the capacity on your plants. So for your customers, a lot of times that is about 5 to 20% and even more in several cases, purely because of various strategies and the time taken to implement those. The other element of constraint and an incredible amount of impediment to keeping equipment up and running on the schedules that are expected is that there's no unified mechanism to both raise and resolve queries that customers, either operations people or technicians or maintenance folks might have. And the OEM struggles with the ability to possibly provide a unified platform for their customer to have resolution against a lot of the required knowledge. Where consumers are moving to doing a lot of things by themselves, what they call the shift left mentality, you're given the ability in the B2B space, that ability is restricted. So we're trying to bring the digitization capability to a relationship between an OEM and an end customer, where you can take a lot of self-guided opportunity and reserve both time and preserve the resources that otherwise are required to fulfill that task. Of course, there's a lot of correlated dependencies and cost of ownership and ROI that doesn't get fulfilled, or the cost of ownership increases because of these downtimes. Certainly there's monetary losses and certainly loss on the customer satisfaction side as well. If we were to look at kind of summing up what those are in your industry, it's the lack of understanding of the actual technical problem for the customer, which is usually held between some paperwork, or there's a manual element to it, or even if it's emailed or phone called in, there's a lot of knowledge in person's head or an infrastructure that's managed by an individual rather than by a system. Not only is there a lack of that communication, but there's also a lack of connectivity, if any, provided between your assets that are deployed, I'm talking as an OEM, and to get the visibility of what your asset might be performing at a customer's location. And doing it just in time, or doing it right at when it's failed, or after it's failed in many cases, is not the resolution. It's the norm today, but it's not the best way to service a customer. Not only do problems lie in the connectivity, but they also certainly then migrate over to the inability to diagnose or get any insights into the data or your install base. Even if you were to understand what the diagnosis of a particular problem is, the ability to find the manuals, if you were a customer, and even with the changing pace of a lot of the service engineers at the OEM, it's very hard to locate this knowledge, which is either in somebody's head or in paperwork that's buried, or with the equipment that's been running for 10 years and the manuals aren't updated. So the unnecessary time that is spent on finding where the manuals, procedures, or documents are is a big challenge in that industry specifically. The inability to provide, thus, monitoring of the performance between an OEM and a customer, let alone doing anything predictive, is almost a luxury at best. And certainly if you take all of those and recognize as an OEM, am I able to service my customers in the fashion that the industry is moving, or how consumerization has moved, or how digital technology is enabled? That certainly is a question that OEMs have asked from a challenge perspective, at least the ones that we've spoken to and what we see around the industry. And then you identify, well, is there a revenue stream that you're missing out on as an OEM? So to be able to address a lot of these challenges, ITHENA has come up with a solution that's built on the best industrial IoT platform, partnering with Rockwell and PTC and some of the other leading providers in the space to be able to do improved service to allow the opportunity to increase uptime, and from an OEM perspective, to be able to monetize some of the features on servicing and not provide service in the firefighting mode at all times. If I were to look at some of the features that iServ brings to bear, they're really addressing some of the challenges that we just talked about. And number one being ability to monitor equipment remotely and to look at integrating the performance aspects, the usage aspects, the various tags and data connectivity, and in the most ideal scenario, be able to give some predictive outcomes to your customers as an OEM before they actually fail and the customer is now calling you after a machine has gone down. Our ability to provide second to none predictive monitoring capabilities with a lot of AI and machine learned algorithms built into our platform provides the OEM to support their customers better, certainly after the incident, but in most cases, do it prior to the incidents have happened. So you're providing proactive capability to your customer for uptime, for best practices on the equipment that you've manufactured. The same UI and the same capability exists should it be provided to the customer to monitor their own equipment. And this is where the heterogeneous or multi-tenancy comes into play, where you can manage multiple equipment on the same plant or across plants at the same line or multiple lines, same type of PLCs or multiple types, all within one interface. So the number one capability of the solution feature is the ability to provide performance monitoring. The other areas where we really see customers being able to take advantage is the service app that is an application that's on a mobile phone or a personal device, a PDA, at your customer's site or a handful of members of the operations or technicians at your customers. This provides the ability on a mobile device to diagnose, first understand the problem, and an alert, an alarm comes up in the app about an equipment failure. And then certainly the next piece, which is the shift left mentality we've been talking about a little bit, which is the ability for you to do self-guided how-to videos, knowledge base, various procedures specific to the equipment or the error, and then the manuals of maintenance that are required to fulfill that. The individual that's utilizing the app can actually either solve the problem themselves or raise a ticket right with the OEM, right from within the app. Now, I look at this from a lot of the issues that we have in our homes. If you have home monitoring systems or ADT or Vector or even Google Nest or any of the other ones, there's still no feature at times in there. You still have to call an 800 number to identify the failure on an equipment or a thermostat or a particular sensor on your door if you're using some sort of a equipment. The ability for us to have that information being QR coded, so where you would just point your phone at the QR code on the equipment, and the ability for you to actually get that ticket raised directly with your OEM saves not only a lot of time, but a lot of cycles and the downtime of the equipment that you're looking to deploy in your, or you're deployed in your factory. What happens in the back end is the ability for the OEM or those receiving your request, once it's logged through this mechanism, to be able to administer the ticket, to assign the right technician, to enable the routing of that if it needs to go to R&D for some purpose, to onboard one or multiple customers throughout, and certainly to enable specific content for that particular equipment from the OEM. And this is where the components of not only digitization, but AI and machine learning algorithms that ITHENA has built on top of the industrial IoT platform provides the ability to you to have the ease of information access with the mobile devices and the ability of a self-service portal to be able to do the management and routing of the tickets. And so the core features, like I mentioned, are built on digital technologies like industrial IoT, the web mobile construct for ease and customer engagement, and then a lot of algorithms on artificial intelligence that are built in to help derive the outcomes that need to be predictive in nature. The best way to showcase the features of our product are an example of what a persona-based service application can do for you. And we're going to walk through a very simplistic use case where an individual, a customer who is using your equipment, using the equipment of an OEM, whether it be a palletizer, whether it be a filtering or sorting unit, a shredder, or any other industrial equipment. And let's say there's an alarm on the equipment that has stopped the equipment from working, or there's a warning, or there's some sort of a alert that has come up. The very first feature of the application is the ability to have a self-diagnostic capability for the end customer, whether it's a technician or an operator, to be able to look at what the alarm is, a little bit more inside of the alarm, the manuals associated at some level that the OEM has provided for those alarms, and maybe how-to guides or videos or other artifacts that are provided as part of that equipment. If they're not able to figure the resolution by self-diagnosis, you can engage in a customer service call. So you can raise a ticket right through the app, because that's the very next thing to do, because you've not been able to solve the problem by the resolutions that are available for self-diagnosis. And you can do one of two things when that happens: is you can monitor the performance. You can look at some of the other parameters within the equipment in your location through the app, all within the app. And when you raise that ticket, it goes to the OEMs, which is the picture on the far right, bottom right of the screen, where the OEM's service manager is looking at technician assignment or resolution to the query that you have asked via a web interface. And it's helping them scale, because you don't need everybody to be attending a phone call or calling a customer back, but you can update a system where there's tons of information that the customer might have provided, or sharing of that information might have been done via this app. Of course, if that doesn't resolve the ticket or the query that was raised, then you can certainly get in real time, powered by AR and VR technology. So those that are augmented reality or virtual reality or mixed reality capabilities. We've integrated platforms like Vuforia Chalk or Expert Capture, which are built by some of the most leading industrial software companies like PTC and Rockwell Automation, to be able to integrate all within the app that ITHENA has built, to be able to then contact a service engineer at the OEM in real time. So if I were to create a divide here, typically, this is the line in the middle, where this side is for the OEMs and their roles, and this is the customer that is actually having a problem. So a service manager or a service engineer, and then others that are part of looking at what you need to resolve the ticket, to resolve the ticket, can be brought in from the OEM side. This capability is really what is so unique about our solution, because it provides the ability not only to integrate just the ticketing aspect, but the fault codes and diagnosis opportunity on the machinery, various procedure and alarms that are generated, alarms that are generated by the machine to be looked at, and the relevant information to be provided at the customer's fingertips. And if the case isn't resolved by self-diagnosis, be able to provide the OEM with the insights on both what the ticket is, as well as what opportunity a service engineer can have to be in a virtual but a real-time call with the end customer. I will walk through a quick architecture overview of the application. And there are certain capabilities that are all built in within the platform that ITHENA has built, and others that are part of peripheral subsystems that we can integrate for your needs. So the application that's built, like I mentioned, on key components of rules engine, on industrial IoT integration of data that provides user management, ingestion of complex event stream, which is continuous tags that are being monitored and provided for as an input into our aggregated cloud. The ability for it to be more built in your cloud or cloud that we can provide is really the crux of the bare bones of the application platform. On top of that, you can do the three things I just mentioned earlier, which is do the monitoring of the performance through connected and integrated capability of the industrial platform, provide a self-guided opportunity for your end customers via the mobile app. Also, enable the ability for folks at the OEM to be able to look at the same information that the customer is looking at, so as to reduce the time it takes to resolve some of these complex issues between the two organizations. And the various roles that we mentioned, whether it's a customer technician, an agent, or service manager, or line operators, or others that are in the customer service teams of the OEM, can all utilize the same component within the application. And of course, a lot of times customers say, well, I have a ticketing system that I use already. Can I not integrate this with that? I have possibly PLM or other systems where I possibly put my bill of materials, supply list, or possibly recipes, or if it's in more of a process industry, can I not utilize that as my master data? A lot of times customers say, well, I already have some sort of a third-party supplier system or a portal that I enable everybody to come in. Can you integrate this capability with that subsystem? And of course, the answer is we certainly can. And that's where the openness or the application scalability comes in, because it's a very flexible build that we have created on the industrial platform provided by both PTC and Rockwell. The way we help OEMs see the value of the application that we have built is multifold. One, of course, intimate customer service, the ability to provide a lot of value to your own engineering teams by providing the knowledge base within the app and then having it shared with the customer at the right time. That's certainly one value. The other, which is a very important opportunity in the digital age, is to look at for an OEM to be able to monetize on this as an application that they provide to their customer. So our go-to-market target is the OEM that manufactures the machines that range, and just an example I'll draw up, anywhere from $400,000 to about $3 to $4 million, or $4.5 million each. And whether it's in the food and beverage space, whether it's in automotive, whether it's in printing or in continuous process or other industrial usages of your equipment, if you're selling as an OEM, your equipment in anywhere in that range, you have an opportunity to provide service capability, especially with this digital platform, utilizing some monetization aspect with your end customer. So let me give an example of what customers are doing, and this is indicative to a few of our customers that have deployed such applications. So this pyramid is going to help us determine how many customers on the right and what's the dollar per customer typically you can possibly ascertain out of the sale of the application, or what the OEM can charge their end customers. So take, for an example, you have maybe a total of 100 or so customers that you sell your products to in the range that's listed on the bottom left of the screen. To about 40 of those customers, if you're able to sell this application for $5,000 a year. Similarly, for about 30 customers, you're able to sell this for about $7K a year. Maybe for 10 of your customers, you can charge about $12K, and maybe the top 5, who are maybe those that have bought, high-end equipment, $15,000 to $20,000 worth of insurance, if you will, or knowledge base or servicing capability that's in real-time ability. I think it's a fairly nominal opportunity, at least what we've seen from our customers so far. So what this pyramid shows is that you've got the number of customers on the right, and then you've got the amount that you can charge per customer. And that, in this example, equates to about a little under $1 million a year for this particular OEM as an additive line of service or revenue through a new line of service, which can be attributable totally to the application you just looked at in the last half hour. So iServ can help an OEM monetize on the service capability with its end customers in a very short amount of time, in a very customer-friendly manner, and enable a tighter relationship with the two organizations. Again, these examples are indicative. The numbers for your teams and your organizations would work as appropriately for you, and one size certainly doesn't fit all, but this is an indicative example of what that could look like for you. So if I were to summarize a few things before we get into maybe a live demo of the solution, is that there's 2 levels of value that we've seen customers gauge out of this. So our customer, which is the OEM, they certainly look at the ability to do better service and more intimate connectivity and integration with their customer. They can provide an application framework that's persona driven to their customer. They can provide some standard KPIs that the customer ought to look on the equipment that you have manufactured that otherwise gets lost in translation, or the value of that equipment is not completely optimized or utilized by your customer because of either the communication method or the intelligence is usually in the people involved in the sales and then service. So if you can take that and standardize that across within an application, that's something of grave importance to both you as an R&D and an OEM unit, and to your customer, because they're getting the maximum value of what your equipment is meant to do. You certainly, as an OEM, would get improved engineering utilization. This is where the cost opportunity starts to become very relative and relevant, where you can avoid having expensive engineering teams or controls engineers be always on the phone for service calls, and have apps like iServ have the intelligence built into them to be able to provide that to your end customer. And of course, to manage all of that, it becomes one part of your deployment, that it's for content, for the mobile app, the tickets, the resolutions, the performance, all of that is managed within one application, and hence the one-stop shop for content. So that's for the OEMs. The value for your customers eventually is to look at opportunity for reduction in downtime and improvement in resolution of downtime, which certainly leads to increase in efficiency, ability for them to kind of do shift left, the concept we've been talking about throughout, which is give them self-guided capability to drive resolution of things that they need to be able to do without coming to you as an OEM. The cost of ownership for the OEM of the solution goes down because they have something now, instead of keeping the machines down for a certain amount of time because the OEM needs to resolve the issues, possibly through technology like the AR/VR module we just talked about, like the predictive maintenance UI that you'll see in a moment, like the ticketing and resolution application is made much quicker, hence the reduction in the cost of ownership of a solution. They move to predictive, and you as an OEM help them get to more predictive versus being in firefighting mode and only call when there's a problem. And of course, all of that leads to the ability to have a thoroughly increased customer satisfaction. Some of the quotes from our customers, before I get into the demo, I wanted to show, is that they really look at the integrated content, the ability for us to have all sorts of content, documentation, all be together in one place. They've not had the opportunity to have that before this type of integration beforehand. Although they might have dwelled into some of the tools that are provided by for industrial IoT, or they might have like a service desk type tool available. Certainly nothing that integrates all of them in one place. They also have manuals that are available throughout their facilities and at various locations, both at the customer and their own teams. But the ability to have that in one place and be utilized as and when you need it, right, for the resolution of the ticket or problem at hand is really what's the value for them. The second component that I mentioned, which is incredibly important for them, which is the ability for them to focus their engineering resources on the work that's related to engineering and not so much things that are related to customer service. So their R&D and the ability to deploy the right people within the R&D teams that otherwise are taken away at times is incredibly important for our customers as well. So we see a lot of that as an opportunity from them. And last but not the least, from a OEM perspective, the ability for you to go out and be able to build a revenue opportunity and selling this product to your customers in the pyramid that we saw some time back is really what the key message across a lot of our customers is, especially the OEMs who want to be able to give this access to their customers and are willing and able to charge the fee for them. And that's when the value of the application, the payback time, et cetera, really comes in, becomes very beneficial. Let me pause and see if there's any questions that were received before we jump into the demo, because the next 10 to 15 minutes, I really want to talk about the ability for us to showcase the actual product and all the things that we've talked about so far. I'm just going to switch over to our meet, and there were some questions. There's a few common questions, and there's one or two questions that the moderator has received. So there's a question says, is there a way to see a pattern of ticket history? So there's a default way for you to monitor a ticket and similar tickets, like one on an equipment or by category. There's a definition that we have created, and you can certainly customize that in the tool. So there's two levels of such historic view of the ticket. One is just a similar ticket of the same kind or on the same equipment. And then second is tickets with same problems of vibration or high temperature or nozzle error or something of that sort. The type of ticket, regardless of the equipment, you can also look at, you can view that historically. But that's something you have to build in and out on top of the data that's in the tool. But certainly the tool saves that information for analysis. So hopefully that answers the question. There's one more question. Does the application come in all three modules at the same time, or can we divide? Okay, so the intent of the question is to see we showed three modules: the performance monitoring, the service ticketing and the application, that's the portal, the mobile app and the portal. And you can certainly have a modular approach, and a lot of customers do that at times, but the features are all inclusive in the application, where you provide the capability to do the service via the app and the portal. And then the extension of the portal also provides you the ability to do the remote monitoring. It's more of a crawl, walk, run type of a scenario with a lot of our customers, where they take on application support, or the support or service team first starts off with not necessarily monitoring directly, but being able to provide support through a ticketing system and with QR codes and easy tracking of the application, and all the manuals that are related to the application. And then they get into performance monitoring, etc. Yeah. There was another question, and certainly all of these will also connect with you post the webinar. So please don't feel disheartened if all your questions aren't answered. Another question is that when the software is integrated with the machines, if the machine has an error code, can the app receive the code, or does it need human interaction? And certainly the application is what will receive the actual error, because the application is built to now read the tag or the failure codes that are running on the machine. And that's the whole idea, that our ability to monitor that and remotely. So this is the bare bones that it provides, which is showcases the error code or the alarm. The best scenario is that it actually tells you, saying this is a predictive alarm that hasn't happened yet, but because we're monitoring that equipment remotely, these are the possibilities. And that certainly takes time, because machine learning and AI algorithms that we've built take a lot of historic data along with what might be happening right now. And the more integration you see and do in the system, the better qualified it is to predict that. So certainly it does what you've asked here in the question, but also is meant to do more than that. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to my mobile device and join this webinar from there, so that you are able to see my mobile app, and I can join through. No, geez. So just give me a moment. Actually, there was one more question. Well, that was actually a comment made that increases the resale value of the same machine sold repeated. Yes, certainly. So the value from a OEM perspective is that now you have a connected machine that has intelligence that you can provide the customer, certainly, but also obviously to you as an R&D unit to do better things within the equipment for the next version, etc., and learn from what the machine is actually doing. So certainly very important point that you bring up. I'm going to share my screen. Mohit, you'll let me know when you're able to see it. Please confirm that you are.
Yes, Prabodh.
Okay. So here I am at, and I'm using my Android device, and you can use it, any other device that you'd like, an iPhone, well, mostly iPhone and Android devices. And I'll just walk through the demo right here, which is there's a bunch of tickets that have been created, and I'll show the portal where these go in. And let's say I already know the 8 tickets that are new that have come up in the last whatever time frame. And this is the interface that shows that this particular one is on the topic of turbine, and there's abnormal heating of a gearbox on turbine WT003, wind turbine number 3. And it's under the support department. A maintenance engineer actually created that. And there are some knowledge artifacts that have shown up at the bottom. So again, let me go back to the main page. I see that first ticket that's a problem. I go in and it's in the process of being looked at. It's a normal priority. And there's many features, and we're showing 3 or 4 that are maybe critical, but there's many ways you can configure this. I can say, can you please call me? I'm typing that on my phone ASAP. And you will see how this will show up somewhere. I am writing this from the webinar. Okay, so I've entered some things in the application, or I can come take a look at that, the self-service capability, and say, well, there's a specific toolbox thing I need to look at for the resistance, and there's a PDF that talks about some training manual that's specific to the error that I have at hand. So I've updated the case, I have looked at a specific thing, and I still cannot figure out head from tail. So I can, so this ticket has already been logged, but let's say I was at my at my device, and I'm just showcasing, here's my phone, and here's the webinar we're in. So if there was a QR code, I would scan the QR code, and I'll come to it just in a moment. I would go in and I would raise a ticket right here saying, I'm stuck, or I'll say loud noise from motor. I'm hearing loud noise from the motor, and it's in motor related issues, and it's for support, and it's a high priority because, or it's emergency, let's say, and it's for turbine, and I can just raise a ticket right here. So there's an API key that's required, and we'll go fix that in a moment. But you ought to be able to go and raise that ticket right within there. Now I can see, here's the remote monitoring feature that we were talking about. I can actually see what the performance of that equipment is. So the question that was asked earlier, can you see, this is that turbine nozzle or gearbox that we're looking at. This is real time, that the data is connecting to a turbine data set that we're running, and you see the nozzle or the charts down there moving because it's actually, if I give it 10 seconds, there you go. So anything that's in red or green or yellow is not something that's it's not a report that's running manually. It's coming directly connected from the device on my phone right here. This is my regular phone, and here's the app under which it's running. So the ability for you to look at just the health has just deteriorated for whatever reason. It keeps the rotor health. The pitch error constantly is at a certain degree, which is wrong. And then there's some basic things of vibration and a time series data on ambient temperature, and between today and a day ago is constantly shown. And I can, again, look at details within each of those and identify what the concerns are, and or drill down. And again, there's many KPIs that you can standardize to provide to your customers, but these are the 8 or 10 that we chose in this particular example. And that temperature or the noise that I was talking about got created just a few minutes ago as well, on the 3rd of February, and it's showing right here. So that wind turbine 03 at wind turbine site 04, I guess, is what this particular one is. So the ability for you to actually go and be in a view that's all contained within one environment. I just did the ticket creation and some comments back and forth, the monitoring of real time. Now, what I have not done yet is I've not called a remote agent where I can actually get them on the phone to look at, can they help me in this area, right, specifically. So if I look at the abnormal heating of turbine example, if I'm not able to solve, or these manuals can't resolve what I need, there's a little button at the bottom right corner that you see, the yellow button. And if I click that button, it opens up this remote application that's called Ruforia Chalk. And Chalk is a AR application. Oh, no kidding. That provides the ability for you to be able to look at a specific device or machine, and an expert can come in from the back and be able to identify what kinds of things that do they need to fix. They can remotely look. It's like being there, or like a WebEx we're sharing screen, but the ability for you to constantly stay connected in real time with your technician if you cannot resolve. So now all of that is managed right within one application, the ITHENA application, and provides the ability for both the resolution of the ticket, the remote monitoring capability, or if I can't resolve the ticket with self-guided capability, I can always go call a technician in real time and be able to receive them on the other end. And just for kicks, I'm going to go move a particular ticket, so you can really close a ticket from one to the other and saying, hey, I was unable to save the file, but now I am, etc. Yeah. So what I want to do really quick now is to be able to show you the actual interface of the of how the actual OEM side of this. So if that were the customer side of things, here's how the OEM side of things would look like for this application specifically. So what I mean by that is that you are now on the receiving end of the portal, and somebody has created that ticket, and you should be able to see my screen. Mohit, you'll confirm that you're able to see the iServ.ITHENA.io web page.
Yes, bro.
Okay. So I'm going to log in as a maintenance individual engineer or something. Let's see. Let me see, service manager. And now when I come in, I see this as the list of various tickets that have been created, and I can look at maybe the error on a particular application or a particular ticket. I can go into the details of that, identify what the problems for that particular ticket have been, and if there are things that I can respond to directly from here. This has been assigned to David Baldwin under the maintenance department, and this is for all models that go on the Airbus 320. Of course, this is made up data, so I wouldn't worry about that. But then you can look at what the history was. So somebody had a question. The history is maintained right within the ticket itself. And then there's another element of analytic report that we provide on top to say, hey, everything that was under maintenance that had a problem with some help topic of this particular model of your equipment or this model of the equipment, here are those resolutions that were given. And what were the actual actions and the best practice. So from a OEM perspective, you can now integrate and provide better capability of improving the product that you need and the things that you need to put into your product as the next release, or if a patch or some sort of application needs to be provided for, you can enable that. You can also look at the dashboard as to which particular timeline or what tickets have been assigned. This looks like empty for some reason, but we can look at maybe from this year to now. I don't know if there's any. Well, it looks like a lot of them were created before that time frame. So I'll have to go maybe November. I don't know. The data has to be looked at as to when they were created, and then hopefully. Okay, there's some tickets that have several resolutions, and these are the times. Again, you'd get a much more different looking UI, just obviously based on the tickets that you would have, but they'll show the two departments in which they are aligned and assigned to, and maintenance and support, and what topics were they assigned in. That's very important as well. And then which is the agent that actually looked at. So there's been one that's been assigned across in that time frame. What you can also do is the knowledge base, which is really, really important, and the ability for you to then provide knowledge artifacts for your specific equipment in one place. So if it's the casters and wheel information, we can add documents to this. We can edit the category and provide much more details of whatever you need, if it's private, public. There's many aspects of that. What canned response you can provide, etc. And we've built really something that's fairly open and responsive for you to build this yourself. So this is a framework, and then you can utilize what kinds of things are required for you. So for wind turbines, this is a reliability manual. Looks like it's just a link of a document. And then there could be videos that you need to put. So there's 3 topics under this particular one. One is a specific industrial transformer, like a note. The other is maybe a larger note. And then you can have a video. You can have all kinds of artifacts that are assigned into that. So the ability for you to also manage and assign users, we have very easily provided ability for us to create that. And then certainly the organization, it's multi-tenant, so you can have multiple organizations being utilized into one instance that you can manage as an OEM. I'm going to pause that and ask if there's any, maybe open up for other questions that people might have, because we're here in the last 8 minutes of the webinar, and we'd like to have some time for Q&A if folks have any questions. There's 1 or 2 questions that I see here, that what is included in the platform solution. Okay, I think you mean what does the solution come with in terms of software, etc., application, etc. So it comes with certainly the industrial IoT platform, that you do all the ingestion of data that comes in from your various field and devices. The mobile app that provides the servicing opportunity for your customer. And of course, the web portal that is for the OEM to monitor the tickets, the things you looked at just at the end here. Also, we provide some pre-canned dashboards that are there for predicting and capability for you to onboard customers, etc. And the ability, obviously, for you to do integration of all your tags using remote mechanism. So you can provide the ability to log into PLCs or HMIs for ladder troubleshooting and other modifications that are needed. So I hope that answers that question. The other question that I see here is the solution only cloud-based, or do you provide it on-prem as well? So there's many flavors, at least the 2 that we can deploy it in. One, if customers have a decent ability on your own to manage cloud infrastructure and have some of the staff that's required to do so, you can have it and deploy it on-prem. And we can certainly augment configuration or cloud or other members of our team to set that up and even operate that for you in your infrastructure on-prem. Conversely, if you want to have us host it, we work with all 3 major providers between Azure, Google, and AWS, and be able to provide hosting across the cloud for you. So one more and an important question, that the usage of the app is both by OEMs or just the customer. So the app that we're talking about can be used both by the operators of the customer or the techs or the maintenance folks at the customer, as well as your service technician that goes out to help service an equipment. So you both are singing from the same sheet of music or the same app, so to speak. And certainly I showed you an example of the ITHENA color scheme and themes, etc. But when you deploy the application, you would do that as part of your, we will deploy it as for you with your skin and all the themes and corporate identity that you need to have available for you. So let me summarize in the last 5 minutes. If there's other questions, I'll take that as well. But the next steps, as we see, is we've offered obviously a free proof to for you to enter a free opportunity to do a free proof of concept with us. Now there are a little under 200 folks that had registered, and of course, one of our intents were to ensure that we can understand the intent of people. So we're going to send out an email that you'll get from our team. So if you can please fill out the intent for the POC, and there's a few questions we'd ask you and set up a call with you. What we're going to do is we'll filter the candidates from our perspective with a selection algorithm. It's not human-based, it's machine-based, and come up and set up the follow-up calls with you to do the proof. Now, if everybody wanted a proof, certainly we're going to do our best to accommodate, but it has to be validated. So that's why the POC intent and the email that you'll get from us is important for you to fill out, so we can better understand what's your path and journey before just spending time on both ends to be able to do this. And the email would look somewhat like this. You'll get it from our kind of the practice and the marketing team, and it has a bunch of questions in it. So we would appreciate if you can fill that out and provide that back to us. And then we'll be in touch with you at the information provided by you. So if there aren't any other specific questions, I think there's one more that came in. Is it possible to add and track multiple customers with a single deployment at the OEM end? And the answer is yes. We can obviously provide multi-tenancy with our platform, and you can have multiple locations of your customers, and you can provide the app to each of the customers to provide that access, but to the single instance in the back. Now, of course, it depends on how many eventually you look to bring on and the infrastructure, et cetera, but it's hosted with us. We will manage it, but if it's hosted with you, we'll help you figure out what that looks like. But our intent is to get the most value out of our application for the OEM and eventually then your customer. So we're in this together through the thick and thin of things, and make sure we're lock, stock, barrel to get you the value that you need. So with that, we're coming up to the top of the hour, and I wanted to obviously thank all of you for being part of the event today, and really appreciate the opportunity to converse with you on the solution that we've built for the OEM industry, and to make your customer service tighter with your end customer and allow you to look at monetization opportunity within there. We thank you for attending. If we did not answer any of your questions today, or you felt you needed more details, please feel free to send an email to request@ithena.ai, and we will ensure that your email is addressed. And we want to thank you for your time today, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.